Hello YouTubers and YouTubies, this is a 2006 Pontiac Torrent rear end rebuild on an all-wheel drive. You want to remove your back tire, then remove your drum, then you'll need to remove your brakes. We're trying to get at the bearing in there. That hold the bearing in, you want to remove this axle nut here, which is this axle nut is a 30 millimeter. Once you remove that, you're going to have a washer in here. Get your pick tool and remove the washer off the center. Then you grab your punch and punch the center. We use an air punch. And right there. Punch the center axle through while it's still bolted to make it easier, so you've got some stability on there. Then you remove your 4 13 millimeters. It's around the back side, around the axle. You have to get in there with something. Lots of swivels. And then remove your bearing. And then you got your ABS wire. It comes out of this hole here. Pull it out, make sure you disconnect it. It unplugs right up there on the trailing arm. And now you separate the axles from the rear end. You need all sorts of contortion shit. What we found works is a serpentine belt toolkit with the 1/2 inch drive, 13 millimeter. And this is actually going to be what you need to get into the back hole on the bottom. You should have it right there. On the bottom of the wheel bearing from the back side. It's a 13 millimeter, but you got like no room. So easiest thing to use is a serpentine belt tool. Now that you're at this stage, you want to separate the axles from the rear end. Under here, take a pry bar. Press it in there, not real hard to damage anything, and tug the axle from the other side as well, and then you'll separate it, pull it right through like that. Next you want to drain your rear end so you can get all the fluid out. You want to make sure you can get the fill plug loose, which is on the back side of the rear differential. It's kind of tight spot in there between the frame. It'll be hard to fill it if you can't get that loose before you drain it. Drain your rear end.
Be sure to find the exact size Allen.
You do not want to strip this. We used an aluminum housing for the rear end and steel plugs.
Set that on the ground now.
Now you watch the magic happen. Just let it drain out so you can disassemble the back half of the rear differential. Which will cover off. You have to start by removing this mount. Here there's 2 bolts here, and there's a bigger rubber mount on the back side. It's 15 millimeter on one side and 18 millimeter on the other side. Get that out before you can remove that rear end cover. Bolts here on the back of the differential are 18 millimeter on both sides.
What is that? Is it spinning now?
Yeah. Ratchet that bad boy off there, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to remove the 4 10 millimeter bolts.
2 up, 2 down.
2 on the bottom and 2 hidden up top. And then there's 4 13 millimeters, 2 on either side, right by the axle going in. Will cover off. You'll see that. And what you're looking at is these are your bearings, which is probably where you'll get your wear at, and these are your seals here. So next, get to it. You'll need 2 people for this next part. What you need to do is have somebody pull really hard on the axle, pry out the rear end gears a little bit, and then pull out on the axle at the same time, and you'll get just enough play going back and forth side to side to get it out. And then bam, looks just like that. Look how cute that little thing is. Boy, and there's your bearings right there on the ends. We're gonna get those bad boys replaced right there, so we'll be rolling. No more gravelly flintstoning. You also have to pay attention on your sides. You got your seals that go on the axle. You have a shim and your bearing race. That's so cute. Look how tiny that is. Just get her done. Before you remove the bearings off of the gears in the rear, you want to make sure that you have a place that you can get them from, because we had to search high and low and went to a truck place to get the bearings. But you'll need a puller to pull them off, and then you'll need a press similar to that there to put them back on. And what I like to do before I tear everything apart is take lots of pictures so you remember how it goes back together. Alright. Next step, after you get the rear end all back in with the bearing, the races, is to apply some gasket, because of course they don't make a gasket for this. So you want to get ready to seal it all up and put it back together. Total rebuild of the rear end takes about 14 to 17 days. You'll be back on the road in no time. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, this is going to be a tough job for you, but one of the things you do have to do is you have to get this axle out in order to be able to put the seals in and have them out of the way. So what you're going to need to do is remove this bolt here on top, these 3 here that are holding the trailing arm, this bolt here, and this bolt on the back side. And this whole unit here is going to swivel down.
Remember to support the suspension.
And yeah, when you pull all those bolts out, make sure you have some support under here, because it will want to take off on you. That spring is danger. So that's what we're going to do next on this side, is yank all these out here, tilt this down, yank axle out, pound in the new seal, and then you just start putting everything back together in the reverse order that you took it out. All right, one thing you may encounter, well, you will have to encounter when you're putting it together, is installing the seal into the rear end after you have it together. So you can rent a seal installer, but who needs that? So what we made, you take one of the old races from the bearings, duct tape it to a board, place it up inside next to the axle, and it fits just perfect against the seal. And then where the axle would come out, you take a long pipe and you pound it through the opening, hitting the back side of the wood to knock the race against the seal, and it'll pop right in there. 432 hits later, but it goes in. Trust me. Perfect. I showed you the seal installer for the driver's side. This is what we're using for the passenger side. It's a 4x4 with the race from the old bearing duct tape to the top of it. And we're going to stick this right through this hole here where the axle went, and then we're going to pound it in. Or you can go rent one, but who's doing that? And in the words of one wise man, now the rest of the story.
Now at this point, if you haven't already decided to just junk the vehicle, you can hopefully refer back to all your photos that you've taken along the way for reassembly. This job probably will take a day or two if you're completely working on that only for those 2 days. Ours took several days just because of running out trying to find parts and so forth. Thank you for checking out my video. Please give it a like if you found it helpful, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thank you, and have a good day.